What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and one of the reasons I started this SEC channel is because I thought I might could cover SEC basketball as well. It didn't happen this year, but maybe next year we will do that. I have wanted to do college basketball because it's kind of a slow period in the college football season, but I just could not see myself covering all of college basketball. There's just too much to do when you're still doing off-season football. But I thought maybe I could at least cover the SEC because I follow it pretty closely. And so again, that's something we might do next year. But this year, I'm just going to give you my SEC basketball tournament predictions. I didn't follow the SEC really closely, but I did follow it some. Not an expert like I would say that I am in college football, but still know enough about this, I think, to make some pretty good predictions. And the big thing about predictions is that you guys can let me know your predictions down in the comments below. So I want to hear your SEC basketball tournament predictions down in the comments below. Please do that, and we'll see who gets closer here. Don't just give me your champ. Give me at least give me your semifinals and then your championship game and your winners down in the comments below. So let's take a look at the bracket. Hopefully you guys can read this bracket clearly. I copied it off of the SEC website, but you can see Missouri and Georgia will kick things off on Wednesday, and it'll be a quick turnaround for whoever wins that game. They'll play during the day the next day. But yeah, you look at that game, Georgia's really struggling lately. Missouri just blew them out a few games ago. So I do like Missouri to win this game. I think Missouri will advance to face Auburn. And then we move on to the later game, Vanderbilt versus Texas A&M. Vanderbilt did not win a game in the SEC this year. Both teams lost probably their best guards to injury. Of course, Vanderbilt lost their star freshman very early in the season, and Texas A&M lost Starks wasn't too long ago. But again, Vanderbilt's just not a very good team. They haven't won a game in the SEC. I don't see that changing. So I feel pretty confident in picking Texas A&M to advance to face Mississippi State. Now we go back to the top, Florida versus Arkansas. Arkansas comes in winning 3 games in a row. Florida has lost 3 games in a row, but it's a new season once you get to tournament play. Sometimes that momentum can carry over, and sometimes it can stop. And I feel like Florida's just a team that plays well in March. And I think that because they played well against LSU and against Kentucky, really, they didn't win those games, but they looked pretty good. And I think that maybe they sneak up on Arkansas. Perhaps Arkansas is a little overconfident after winning a few games in a row. And that's a huge thing. When you're talking about basketball and tournaments, it's not just the most talented team. It's about who's playing better, who's got the confidence, who plays harder. I mean, there are so many factors that go into the game of basketball. And I just feel like Florida might pull off a little bit of an upset, although they are the higher seed, so I don't guess it would be an upset. But just because they've lost their last 3, I think some people might. I don't know what Vegas has here, but I think Arkansas might be the favorite. Anyways, I'm going to go with Florida to advance to face LSU. Auburn and Missouri up next. And if you remember last year, Auburn was actually won the regular season in the SEC. I think they tied with Tennessee, and they played so well during the regular season. I mean, they were just so impressive. And then they had some injuries. They kind of ran out of gas, and by the time they got to the tournament, they really struggled, kind of fell apart there, and didn't really make much of a run at all. This year, I think it's kind of different. They kind of had their ups and downs during the season. They might actually get Austin Wiley back, and that means they will be more healthy. And so I think that would be huge for them. I think they can win this whole tournament if they get Austin Wiley back and he can play at 100%. But I do think they take care of Missouri and get the win and advance to face South Carolina in what sets up to be a really, really fun matchup there in the quarterfinals. Ole Miss versus Alabama is next. 2 teams that have really been up and down this season. Ole Miss with a couple of heartbreaking losses here in the last couple of weeks of the season. Alabama has just looked really bad at times. It's kind of tough to figure out who's going to be the better team here. I do think that Ole Miss is the better team. I think they've been a little bit more consistent. Again, you look at some of their losses here at the end of the season. They were close losses to really good teams. So I think Ole Miss will get the win here over Alabama, and your reward is the Kentucky Wildcats. Texas A&M and Mississippi State just played to close out the regular season. Mississippi State won that game, I believe, by 9. Again, no Starks for Texas A&M. That is a huge blow for them, his injury was. So I think that Mississippi State will take advantage of that. It's tough to beat a team twice, especially 2 games in a row. But I think Mississippi State is going to be able to do that. And I think the Bulldogs will advance to face Tennessee in the quarterfinals. A really interesting matchup here, Florida versus LSU. They just played not long ago. It took overtime, but LSU did win that game. But I think it's the off-the-court distractions with their head coach. I mean, if you listen to that phone call, the text from that phone call, that is bad. I think LSU may be in big trouble. And I think maybe Florida takes advantage of that. And again, Florida seems to just play well in March. I got the Gators pulling off the upset and advancing over LSU. South Carolina defeated Auburn by 3 earlier in the season. That's been quite a while back, though, and that game was at South Carolina. I think that Auburn is coming in just playing a little bit better. If they get Austin Wiley back especially, they're going to need some help down low to handle Silva. That'll be a big key to this game. But I do think that Auburn will win this game, even if they don't get Austin Wiley. But if they do get him, I think they'll definitely win. And I got the Auburn Tigers advancing to the semifinals to take on Florida. Ole Miss played Kentucky really tough just a couple of games ago, lost by 4. But Kentucky has really played well down the stretch. I know they had that one bad game against Tennessee, and then they lost a close one to LSU. But you go back to early January, Kentucky's looked like one of the better teams really in college basketball. And this is the tournament I think they will be ready to go. I expect them to win, and I think they get the win over Ole Miss and advance to the semifinals. Up next, we've got Mississippi State versus Tennessee. There was a time where Tennessee looked like maybe the best team in the country as well. Mississippi State is a good team. I think they'll play them tough. But at the end of the day, I think Tennessee is a little too good for Mississippi State. They've got some great players inside, and I think that size maybe will help them out. And I got the Volunteers advancing, and they've played Kentucky twice. Both games were blowouts, and the home team won each time. That is going to be a great game there in the semifinals. I think Florida makes a great run. They get a couple of wins here, beating Arkansas, beating LSU, pulling off a big upset there. But then they maybe run out of gas a little bit here against Auburn. I think Auburn is a team that's, you know, a big part of their game is hitting the 3. And if they're able to do that, they can beat anyone. And I think they'll be able to win this game. I think Bruce Pearl maybe and this team learned their lesson last year. I think they'll be ready for the tournament. They'll be ready for this game, and they will advance to the SEC Championship. And then again, we talked about Kentucky versus Tennessee. Both games they played earlier in the year were really blowouts. I don't think that's going to happen this time. I think it's going to be a great game this time. You look, Kentucky won the first game, then Tennessee won. So maybe it's Kentucky's turn to win again. Maybe the Wildcats get this win. And again, Kentucky owns this tournament, owns this conference. It sometimes can get a little old, but I think Kentucky will advance, and they will move on to the SEC Championship game to face Auburn. This is going to be a great matchup, in my opinion. You got Reed Travis for Kentucky, who's injured, Austin Wiley for Auburn. So both of the best 2 big men on each of these teams is dealing with an injury. And I think that both of them may be back for this game. If one of them is back and the other one is not, I think the team that gets their big man back will win. But I'm going to predict this game as if both of them are playing. Both coaches have kind of hinted at a return. You look at the matchups during the regular season, Auburn almost beat Kentucky at home. It was a very close game. And then the game in Lexington, Kentucky blew them out. I do not think Austin Wiley played in that game. May have to correct me if I'm wrong on that. But I think Auburn is definitely capable of winning this game. But at the end of the day, I'm making predictions. I'm trying to be correct. And I feel like Kentucky is just a safer pick. I think they're more talented. Again, I think Auburn's capable of winning it, but I think Kentucky will be the team. They're the safe pick. They're the pick that you feel pretty good about every year. They've got the most talent, I think, in the SEC. They're playing really good basketball right now, and they've got maybe the best coach in the SEC. So I'm going to go with Kentucky to get the win, and the Wildcats winning the SEC Championship. My predictions might be a little bit boring. Didn't pick too many upsets, and I picked the obvious team, Kentucky, to win it. But again, I'm just trying to be accurate here, and that's the best prediction that I can come up with. So that's what I'm going to go with. But I want to know your predictions. Again, let me know down in the comments below And again, next year, maybe we'll cover some college basketball. Maybe I'll do some videos on the tournament as it progresses. I don't know for sure. If you want to see more SEC basketball here on this channel, make sure you hit the like button. But that's going to do it for our SEC basketball tournament predictions. Thanks for watching, and stay tuned for more here on the SG1 Sports SEC Football channel.